You can see right now the motorcade departing the airport with a number of President Trump's supporters standing by. It will soon pass Kellie Meyer, who is outside Mar-a-Lago on the bridge heading over to Palm Beach. Hi, Kellie.
Hey, Leland. Yeah, that's right. We are actually waiting right now right next to the road where the former president will come down, and his supporters are waiting here for him to greet him as he returns here to Mar-a-Lago. You may hear some of them cheering as they're getting ready to see him in the background, cheering and honking. He makes his way, as you can see behind me, to Mar-a-Lago. We were just inside there. The supporters, the crowd there growing as it gets closer to his speech, his primetime speech at 8:15 Eastern inside Mar-a-Lago. And it's interesting, Leland, because we were right there as well just about 5 months ago when he launched his 2024 presidential campaign, also a Tuesday night primetime speech. Now he's coming back here after all the events of today, arrested. We can imagine he wasn't planning to give a speech like this here tonight. And we're kind of wondering what kind of former president, what version of former President Trump we're going to get. Are we going to get a subdued, shaken up version of the events today? Or are we going to get a fired up former President Trump, defiant of these charges against him? If it's any indication, we're seeing his team email that latest T-shirt, a mugshot, a fake mugshot of former President Trump with the words "not guilty" on the front. They've been fundraising off this indictment. So far, they tell us 10 million raised since the indictment. We know that was 8 million last night, so they've raised another 2 million just in the last 24 hours. And as far as his supporters, Republican supporters in Congress, they've been tweeting messages of support for the president. But as far as showing up in person, from folks we've reached out to, from Jim Jordan in the House to Lindsey Graham in the Senate, they're not going to be inside for the speech here tonight, despite it being Easter holiday. So that means that they are not in Washington. They don't have to be in Washington there tonight. So it'll be interesting to see who does show up to support the former president inside Mar-a-Lago tonight, Leland.
Yeah, very interesting, Kellie. You bring up the exact point, which is what version of the former president will we get? And maybe not even subdued or animated. Certainly when we look at him in court today, in that one picture, the still photographers took, it was a Donald Trump unlike anything I'd ever seen, sort of a little hunched over, seemingly a little chagrined. Some said bored, but he certainly was not defiant and in control. No defendant is in control of a courtroom. We'll see how slow the Secret Service drives past many of the supporters. We saw them do that on the way out. We understand that the Trump campaign has videographers with President Trump to record every bit of the trip to New York, to the courthouse, in the courthouse, and then on the way back out, as they will portray him as a victim. Give us a sense of the remarks, because it may not be a subdued Donald Trump or a not subdued Donald Trump, but what percentage of these remarks are we to believe is going to be the airing of grievances against Alvin Bragg, which we have heard an enormous amount of, and litigating the charges against him related to the payoffs of Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal, the former Playboy Playmate? And what percentage is a typical campaign speech about things that people might care about other than what's happening to Donald Trump, a la all of the issues that he wants to say that he will fix in the United States?
And you bring up an interesting point, Leland, because, you know, his advisors and those around him are urging him to keep the message focused on the people, on his supporters, what this means for the country. But the indication by that sample T-shirt with the fake mugshot of it very much still focused on the former president, whether he makes this about him tonight or about the people. That's going to be a question. As far as what kind of former President Trump we get, you know, you hear his supporters rallying for him here. That might pump him up as he returns here to this crowd, both outside and inside. That might fire him up even more to make the speech more about what happened today, to air his grievances, as you said. And we mentioned we were in Waco, Texas for that rally, and much of that was focused on this indictment. But I do think a lot of people also want to hear about his message for the future, because he is also at this moment still campaigning for a third bid for the White House. So he's very much still campaigning for 2024. We see that in his fundraising. But as far as the messaging, that's going to be something to watch here tonight, whether it's about the people or it's about the former president.
And you make a great point. You were there in Waco now about 10 days ago when, if you listen to him, he sounded an awful lot like he thought he had beaten this, right? He was celebrating that basically he had bullied and his supporters had bullied Alvin Bragg into backing down. We found out on Thursday that was definitely not the case. And now we wait to hear from the president for the first time today. Kellie Meyer, Kellie, we're going to keep your camera up, obviously come back to you as the motorcade passes. Live pictures of Mar-a-Lago right now, and you can see the room filling up for the speech shortly. Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.